The eighth article for the People's Bill of Rights reads, excessive bail shall not be required, comma, nor excessive fines imposed, comma, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. And every one of these has, of course, been violated, just like all the other articles of our unalienable Bill of Rights, which means it cannot be touched, it cannot be violated. The ninth article being the clincher that says that no authority can be created within the boundaries of the United States that can infringe or disparage these rights. Excessive bail should not be required. Well, now the word excessive would come into play when you're talking about that particular clause. I mean, $1 million bail. I mean, wow. I mean, somebody like me, that's like no bail. That's just saying there is no bail. But to somebody with, a billionaire, 100 millionaire even, think about it. A $1 billion bail, well, it's already been paid. It's been taken care of. The credit card, ching, ching, I'm out of here. We've seen, no bells, like I said before, nor excessive fines imposed. No bells. I mean, you're looking at the Bundys. They've been in jail now, 16 months without a trial or without bail. And I mean, what exactly are they accused of doing? Interfering with a government official? Really? And then at the same time, we've covered articles on this broadcast talking about these illegal aliens, people in our country that aren't supposed to be here. Here is an act of felony because they've come time and time again that have, hurt people. Like one girl was killed in a car wreck where with a guy that hit her was drunk. He was an illegal alien, drunk. Oh, they let him out on $10,000 bail, and he went to Mexico. So he'll hang out down there a while, come back with another name into one of these sanctuaries and kill some more Americans. Again, you look at the Hatari militia. When the bogus arrests of them occurred been about 4 years now. But they sat in jail for 2 years because you can't have bail. If the government makes a charge against you, we can just say no bail because it's the government and you're in mad morality and they can do as they please because they're not operating within the law. They are denying you your basic rights under the Bill of Rights, your absolute rights. You are the authority above them. But this is how far things have gone. It has turned 180 degrees around to where you talk about them, stealing $1 trillion. Well, they're just too aristocratic to jail. Even to charge. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Dion. Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you today, brother?
I'm doing quite well. I'm so glad you brought that up today about all this because, I was just sitting back and I was just thinking last night. I have got to the point now, man, I realize no matter what, if you go to the kangaroo courts, you will never get no justice. And no matter what, if you try to go by all their proper procedures, you will still be sent up under the jail cell. So, I just made my mind up, man. I'm just going to go. I'm going out with a fight, They come to me about anything, man, it's going to be a fight to the death for me. And because there would be no justice.
Of course not. When they come at you in the first place, it's a crime that they're coming at you because they have no authority. They've never had the authority. We're a self-governing people. The only one that can come after you, that can come after me is another American national, and they better have just cause or else it'll come right back on them and cut them the other way. But it isn't. There's no. I've told people this, and I've had to tell people this in my private life because they all know. Hey, Henry knows the law. Let's go. I got a problem, man. I better go talk to Henry. I just tell him there's nothing I can do for you. The bottom line is there is no law. Yeah, the law would protect you in about every instance. In fact, any instance where the government was coming at you because they have no authority, they have no jurisdiction over you. But the fact is the law has been removed. We are living under a rogue dictatorship where they make the rules as they go along. We looked at in 2008 with the derivatives, so-called derivatives bubble, they call it the derivatives bubble broke. No, that was international fraud that came to surface because it was a Ponzi scheme that finally hit the pyramid and there was nobody left there with any money. And all of the perpetrators were identified, one of them being Stephen Mnuchin, who is sitting in your White House right now, the head of CEO for Goldman Sachs during the theft. And all of these very important, these aristocrats were identified. These are the people that committed international fraud that cost you and I $16 trillion. Not you and I. They borrowed it in our they didn't spend our inheritance and our life's work. They're up to our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren now. But they, of course, Steve Mnuchin, I mean, he got caught embezzling money is what it really comes down to. And, well, he can't lose no money. And the bank can't lose no money. Well, somebody's got to make up for that stolen money, because there's a big open hole there with a vacuum on it that needs to be filled with money. Well, who should do that? Well, the American people. Who did they commit the fraud upon? Well, the American people. That's who the victims should pay. The victims of the crime should pay. This is how, like I said, 180 degrees off, people. So we borrowed. How did we pay that, by the way? Well, that's right. We borrowed the money from Steve Mnuchin to give to Steve Mnuchin, so that we would, and now we owe that same money that we paid off his crime with to Steve Mnuchin with interest. And now they're here to use all of that wealth accumulated through that fraud. We'll buy up our country. And then we can work for Steve Mnuchin as a slave, so we can have a bowl of rice and a fish head every day. That way we'll fit in with the rest of the world. No excessive fines imposed. I mean, again, here, excessive, the word excessive. An excessive fine, if you're a person barely making it, and, you got to the point to where you couldn't even afford insurance on your car. But you're trying to get to work, man. You got to eat. So they catch you with no insurance on your car. They impound your car. And, you lose your car to begin with, because you can't afford, God dang it, if you had the $200 to go to the impound yard, you'd have bought insurance with it. You didn't want your car taken. You didn't want to have to be in that situation. You got to get to work. Now you're walking or catching a ride if you can. But no, let's get them into court. And let's take this person who cannot afford $200 for insurance, and let's find him $10,000 and let him go to some classes and. Now that is excessive. That's beyond excessive. It's outrageous, not to mention never in any jurisdiction for any of it. None of it. But then again, you take your billionaire, he just like the BP spill, they go and they ruin the whole Gulf Coast, and or maybe let's just take one of their scams where they make $100 billion. They made $100 billion off an illegal act that they committed. They get caught, but it's a corporation. But corporations are people, but corporations can't be put in jail because they're really not people. They are just a piece of paper. So what do? They fine the corporation. You're going to pay, he had to pay $10 million fine. Better get somebody in Congress making a law against that, because that's excessive. When he stole $10 billion, and this has been going on right in front of our eyes, just along with the rest of this insanity. Nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Again, the Bundys have been held 16 months in jail. They have committed no crime. There is, under our common law, that they are protected by, they can't even be where they're at. They are political prisoners being politically persecuted. And the Hatari militia, they had done nothing. Spent 2 years of their lives gone, spent in prison, waiting to get up to the point. I mean, we've talked yesterday about, or maybe it was the day before, about the indictments. That's why you had the grand jury. Because we talked about the minimum for an indictment was that if you offered no defense, that you could still be found guilty with no defense. So that's when you get the true bill. But I mean, when you get into court, you look at the Hatari case. I mean, they allowed them no defense, but the charges, I mean, just that went before that grand jury, which were what they were charged on, they were so ludicrous that the jury acquitted anyway, because it just couldn't. I mean, it was just an impossibility. It's just, we're the government and we want you to put these people in jail for 100 years, okay? And it had been, and for so long, it had been, yeah, of course, if the government wants them in jail, they must be dangerous to me. Oh, I'm scared. I better put them in jail. But it's finally reached a point to where it's, and again, up in Portland, Oregon, the acquittals. It's coming to the point to where they have pushed it so far that the common dumb person out there is seeing it for what it is. Excuse me, I got a cough. Oh, allergies. And going back to the cruel and unusual imprisonment, here these people were 2 years in prison. And all the money that was spent, they took all their stuff. I mean, this broke up, their families, their homes were there. They lost their homes. They lost their jobs. They lost everything. How cruel and unusual is that? Well, when you're the government doing it, well, this is what we do. You are the plebes. We govern over you. We own you. Slave. Destroyed their lives. I mean, and then it turned around, and it's the same thing with the, the Bundys. I mean, this is costing those people big time. And not to mention their precious freedom. I mean, if you've never been jailed illegally, like I have, I signed in. I was a political prisoner. It's on the paperwork. You can go look at it. You think about something that makes you feel just complete rage, outrage. It's serving time as a political prisoner, and that's what the Bundys are doing right now. And that old man, he's like 78, 79 years old. I mean, it's the last of his life. You talk about cruel and unusual. And then we talk about Chicago. It was a couple of years ago. They were busted. They were torturing people there in Chicago. A little torture center going for the government. And it was a real good deal for you and me. And it was brought into the limelight, but I never heard about it being shut down. I'm betting they're torturing somebody right now as I'm talking to you. This is so far gone, people. It is the exact opposite of what it was supposed to be. So if it was supposed to be freedom and liberty, it is slavery and servitude. This is where we're at. And it will not change. And if you have any notions that there's somehow these people are going, they're going to wake up, they're going to have a bad dream and wake up and, all of a sudden have a conscience, give it up. There is one way that we're going to settle this, and it's the old Irish way. It's with guns and knives and fists and clubs, rakes, pitchforks, torches. That's how this has to be settled. They won't have it any other way. They've made that clear. Go ahead.
You know what I mean? You're 100% right, man. These guys that go around, they commit fraud, they commit felony. They steal from much every which way from under the sun. Then, I get pulled over about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the cop gets up beside me, hey, why I pulled you over? I said, I told him straight up. I said, yeah, you revenue generate. No, you didn't have a seatbelt on. I said, wow, really? A seatbelt? I said, who was I bothering without having a seatbelt on? Because y'all made this arbitrary little statute and code that I must wear a seatbelt, so you pulled me over. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, man. We live under such tyranny, man. People can't even realize it, and it is so shameful, man. It really is.
It is a shame. It's a shame on us that it gets to the point. You don't want to call them your countrymen. I mean, you got to know that this is a small
They're
percentage.
Cowards, man. They're
yes,
cowards.
They are, and this is a small percentage that is doing it to the rest of us. And that, like your seatbelt there, they have no authority to tell you to wear a seatbelt or anything else. The authority does not exist. They cannot. I mean, the only way somebody could tell you that you needed to wear a seatbelt and they would be laughed. You would countersue them and take everything they got. Would be to file into a common law court and try to say you caused them some kind of damage by not wearing a seatbelt. This is for the insurance companies that have now, through the Obamacare, have become just like the IRS. Where you have corporate entities with policing powers. And it's always been here because when all of these agencies were created, they were created with zero authority, zero acquiescence of authority. Go ahead.
And there's no victim. Who's the victim?
Well, exactly. See, that's what we talk about, those writs. Now, if you say you were in jail for the terrible crime of not wearing a seatbelt, and then you could file a writ of habeas corpus saying, show me the cause, show me the victim, show me the corpse, and it couldn't be shown. But this is why they tell you, well, the writs have been removed. See, what you don't know is they're trying to tell you that we're not going to take them writs in our court. You have no choice. We are the authority. Either we're the authority here, people, or we are slaves. This is what people need to really cop to. Are you telling me that you're a slave and you're admitting you're a slave and slavery's all right with you? Because that's the only other option. These people have no authority over you. There is no lawful authority. In fact, what they're doing is forbidden. When they pulled Dion over there, Dion, they did have a warrant. They had a couple of affidavits for detaining you, correct? Dion? Dion must have backed out.
No, they didn't have nothing.
Well, see what I'm saying to you? And what kind of cop was it? Was it a sheriff or a city pig or what?
He was an old city pig, old city pig.
Okay, so you got a city cop.
He was sitting on the side of the road. He was just sitting on the side of the road trying to catch, revenue generating. He's sitting on the side of the road trying to, catch people, going over, 2 or 3 miles over the speed limit. And he saw I didn't have a seatbelt on. I said, really?
Wow. The thing here is that the city, see, they can't exist. We never authorized no policing forces in this country. We are the policing forces in this country. The militia is the only policing forces outside of in the common law. We have sheriffs and constables to serve process, to keep the peace. That's why they call them peace officers. So that if you do have a conflict and because you have to work within the law, you want to work within the law, you want a peaceful society to live in. So you go and you get the constable or the sheriff. If there's such an adversary situation between you and another person, this paper has to be served, sheriff. You take that over there to Joe Blow, and the sheriff takes it over. The process is served. They can go back and forth. It's like a mediator. Or if you're going to arrest somebody. And with your right to arrest, and you're going to arrest him, you take the sheriff with you to make sure everything goes peaceable. You're going to go up and you're going to peaceably arrest them. But if they try to resist a lawful arrest that has been perpetrated through a true process of law within the common law, you have the right to arrest them anyhow. But I mean, this is 180 degrees backwards from what it's supposed to be. And every day we allow this to go on, it gets worse. I mean, people have to realize that. I mean, we always hear about, they're coming up, the stock market's looking real good, and we got more than full employment. We got so much employment. We're plus over full employment. We're so employed, man, we need to get more people in here. That's how employed we are in this country. You hear the lies, lie after lie, and you just sit there and we're taking it, people. We are taking this. We do not have to. This Bill of Rights is our law. I mean, if this isn't law, there is no law, and right now there is no law. But to step up and say we're going to enforce this, we're absolutely in the right. We are standing on the highest high ground that could ever exist because we're defying tyranny. Just like, the founders, they made heroes out of the aristocrats who hijacked the uprising back that they call the American Revolution. But the bottom line is here, you could be no more righteous than that they were considered the most righteous people on the planet. Everybody envied the freedom and liberty that we had. What a farce, man! What a frickin' farce! Because it was already attacked before it ever really got going. Anyhow, let's see. We got to go through that, and I'm glad. That will go to the 9th. That'll be tomorrow. We'll get this finished up probably around Tuesday, but.